Hello everyone and welcome to another 3D Buzz training video. We're going to kick off a new series here that is going to be quite exciting, and we're going to be using at least two different applications. What we're going to be doing is modeling the ever so famous Star Wars AT-AT here inside of 3ds Max 2008, but then we're going to take it a step further. We're going to move it over into the world of Unreal Tournament 3, where we're going to be turning it into a vehicle. This is, of course, if all goes well, our resident expert in Unreal Tournament 3 technologies will be assembling this into a vehicle. He assures us that it won't be any problem. Good man, Jeff. So we'll see how that all turns out. But in the meantime, Zach and I are going to do our part, and that is Zach model, and I'll sit here and harass Zach.
There you go. That sounds pretty usual.
So let the harassing begin. Well, first thing, let's talk for just a second about intellectual property. This video is for educational purposes only. We take no credit whatsoever.
Nope, it's not ours. We're not selling any part of it. We're not even redistributing these images that we found freely across the web. So please don't ask us for them. They're not ours to give you. But a couple of Google searches and a few key sites you can visit, and I'll be talking about those in just a moment. And you can get everything that I'm using, and probably a whole lot more. If the internet is full of anything, it's full of Star Wars pictures.
That's a fact.
Among other things. But anyways, so I guess we should go ahead and jump in and get started.
Let's just get going.
I've got a file in here where I've already got image planes that are set up. Now, this is a very popular set of schematics for the AT-AT Walker. If you Google search for AT-AT schematics, you will find this image. All I have done is chop it into 3 separate images, and I've darkened it up a little bit so it doesn't stick out bright white against the background. So to begin, let me grab all of these objects and let's put them into their very own layer so that I can do cool stuff like freeze them and whatnot. And we'll just pop into the layer editor, and we'll name this image planes, which is funny because that's actually a Maya term. I'll put my layer, my default layer back up here to default. And the cool thing here is, and I know I'm trying not to go back into teaching mode, but if you go to freeze right now, you'll notice they turn gray. So make sure you select them all again and pop over here to your display tab and scroll all the way down because we have such a low screen resolution, and switch off show frozen and gray. And then you can freeze these guys out so you don't accidentally move your planes around once you get them aligned. Now, I've already pre-aligned these planes so that we don't have to spend a lot of video time making sure that they fit and they work.
That's right.
The only other thing that I have done, if you're trying to set up a file that looks similar to mine, is I have gone under Customize, Preferences, and I have configured my video driver to high resolution images in the viewport. Really, that's it. Okay, so when I'm tackling a model like this, one of the first things I like to do is set up some reference geometry to get the basic scale and proportion out of the way. So that's where I'm going to begin. I'll just pop in here to the side view, and we'll knock this out as quickly as we can. And I'm sure that I'll sit here and get badgered the whole time about it.
Well, you know, it wasn't too long ago that
anytime you start anything with "it wasn't too long ago," I get a little afraid.
Yeah, I hear you. It wasn't that long ago that you called me in on a Saturday morning to do what you were calling the most ultimate sci-fi weapon. And
well, you do know that was a joke because here we have the ultimate sci-fi weapon.
Where's the Millennium Falcon? I'm just saying.
I don't want to hear it. No. This is the ultimate sci-fi weapon right here.
Okay.
It is.
So the other one was just now is this one going to become just a joke?
You know, that's out of the question for discussion, okay? We're not talking about that. This is the ultimate sci-fi weapon, period.
Yes.
End of discussion, all right? We're moving on now. Okay,
so any type of considerations that you are thinking about right now in regards to this is going to be in the world of Unreal Tournament 3?
Right this second, no.
Excellent answer.
Yeah, because what I'm planning on is just building something that looks really, really good, that has a lot of pieces for the high detail, because the cool thing about a lot of the Star Wars models, or at least, you know, the original trilogy models, is that there's like that term that was almost invented for Star Wars, greebling.
Right.
And really, greebling is just adding a whole bunch of other things, or, you know, there's the greebling plugin, but we won't be using that. You're just adding other objects, you know, little rivets and doors and slots and hoses and things for visual effect. And we're going to add all of that in. Now, would you want all of that in your final model when you carry over into Unreal? Absolutely not. You want a low-res model. But because we're building the high-res first, we don't have to worry about it. We'll just create the high res, make it look good. Then we'll build a low res version that will show up in game, and we'll build some normal maps for it.
Yeah, using our high res geometry.
Exactly.
Which is the beautiful thing behind all of this.
Okay, so
let's see. What do you got going on?
You know, I'm getting
Moving on some
this
verts
funny
around.
little bevel that takes place right here at the front of the big fat elephant hump back area.
Okay, interesting term.
And
for
well,
the-
see, I'm scared because I know if I start throwing out any official sounding lingo, I'll get inundated with emails going, actually, that's where the stormtroopers are placed, and it's called the. You know, I know that those are on the way. Somebody's probably writing one right now.
Probably so.
Stop writing, okay?
Actually, the email they're writing you is probably because it sounded like you were just mocking them.
Exactly. That's really not what I sound like at all. I promise. When I'm correcting people at the Star Wars conventions.
Now, of course, for someone that's following along, you've got these really thick lines, at least with the image that we're using here. You know, it's just get it close. You're just...
Well, you know, and there's other considerations taken into effect, too. Now, I've stared a lot at the AT-AT Walker, because I'm a Star Wars freak, but...
But you don't know what the name of the central...
You know...
Okay, so anyways...
Well, you know, I could just pan back, because I've got little arrows that pointed to it. You know, we've got... What do they call this? This is the troop section.
See?
We're working on the troop section.
Very good.
Anyways, so we've got these pictures. Now, I have downloaded a bunch of pictures.
Is yours going to look like that?
Oh man, mine is going to look at least that good.
Okay, good. I'm gonna hold guys. I actually had him say that here on video, so we can hold him to that.
Good. Well, if
You can give me a scene like that?
if you want,
right.
it's fine with me. Okay, but anyways, what I was going to point out to everybody, and this is a great picture for reference too, is what I just extruded out is really, you'd think of it as the inner shell of armor. Because one thing you got to keep in mind about this particular model is there's just like plates and layers of armor stacked on top of more plates of armor.
Right.
So these will be separate objects. What I'm building right now is this kind of interior plate of armor.
Yeah, you could easily tangle their legs up and knock them down.
You know, I'm not going to say this is still the ultimate sci-fi weapon. That was just bad work.
Seems like on the...
That was bad planning on the part of General Veers, okay? That was his fault. You know, Ozzel was stupid because Admiral Ozzel warped into the planetary system just a little too close.
Did he do a famous, face palm when he realized that, wow, the snow speeders actually have the ability of...
I hope he did. Actually, he probably
Shooting out a
swallowed
grappling
really
hook.
hard because he figured he's going to get choked by Vader for that one. And you know what? We never saw General Veers again. He very well might have got killed for that. We don't know. I mean, if Admiral Ozzel can get choked out just for coming in too close to the planet, you know whoever lost the tremendous funding behind an AT-AT Walker probably bid it too. You know these things can't be cheap.
No, you wouldn't think so. Okay, so what do we got going on here?
I'm just closing off this this piece for now. And let's see, let's come down here and grab target weld. I love target weld. Maya needs a target weld. You'll probably hear me make little griping comments like that throughout the series.
This is actually great because while Zach's working on this, I'll take a minute to update you guys on the status of Zach. Zach has been working in Maya a lot.
Lately.
So he's not been in Max in some time. Actually, I don't think you've logged too much time in 3ds Max 2008, if I am correct. So
I was coming across new features like just earlier today. I was like, oh wow, I didn't know that they added this.
So this should be an interesting ride for all of us. Plus, it gives me more opportunities to make fun of him as he stumbles on new things.
Which is really the only important thing as far as Jason's concerned.
The only reason I'm here.
I'm going to turn on backface cull so that we don't end up seeing the back of that. And let me hit F4 over here in this view. Okay. I'm not even going to worry about turning on anything remotely like a symmetry modifier for the time being.
Sure.
It looks like there might maybe be a little bit of
slight
discrepancies. Yeah, but that I don't care that much. Already I can identify this shape that we're generating for what it is. I mean, it's starting to look like the body of an AT-AT Walker. So,
All right, so walk us through what you're thinking right now.
I'm thinking
as long as it's related to this.
No, I was going to say that you might be
I saw
really
that
careful in how you
evil
ask.
grin just shoot across your face.
You haven't met her. Let's see. Let's grab some more vertices and move them around, do the stuff. What I was just thinking was I need to go ahead and get some sort of a modeling material on this thing so that I can see through it. And I've already got one that I set up when I first built this this scene. which is the only thing I did off camera. And all it is right now is just a standard material, which I should probably name so I don't get confused. M_modeling. And the only thing I've done, if you take a look at your opacity setting here, is it's been animated to go from 100 to 0 while we scrub forward, so that I can just dim it out. And I did notice that maybe it's just a new setting for the video cards as of Max 2008, but this looks nice and smooth now. You can get really nice fadey transparencies, and I don't remember that being there before. Maybe it was there and I just didn't notice. I'm going to change the color of this, though. It's just a personal preference, and I don't care what color you use, of course. That's entirely up to you. But I'm going to get kind of a modeling clay, sculpey kind of look. We'll click OK there. And then if you really want to finish the effect, grab a color for your self-illumination, too. That way the backside or any dark area of the polygons can never go to full black, and it's a little easier to see things against the background if you do that. Don't worry about how it'll render. You're not here for how it's going to render. So it looks a little washed out there, but that's all right.
Oh, yeah, that looks, you know, like the troop transport section.
All right. I was waiting for some sort of mocking thing, and I was denied.
No.
It's like, wow. Like, that looks like... Well, never mind.
It doesn't look like, darn it. It's you know,
I'll play nice for now.
You're building a shell which to build from, so it's looking good.
All right, we'll line that up just kind of... Well, I'm really just eyeballing everything right now, and then let's just target weld this, and we can move on to different parts. Now, that's probably about the most attention I want to give to any one area for the time being.
Sounds good.
What I did there. So, it's, you know, actual, a couple of extrusions. He's getting dangerous. So, let's make a nice, quick head. Come back over to create, grab a box, and we'll just go from one corner out to another corner. I don't know how much height I just added. I think I just right-clicked. You don't want to do that. Okay. And we'll pop over to the front view, and already we're running into a bit of a visibility issue. So fading out is going to be one answer, but even that is going to stop working in a minute once I start adding a bunch of different objects. So while we're here and while we're staring down the barrel of the problem, let me come over here and create a new layer. And we'll call this body_ref. Because this is a reference object, I reserve the right to delete it at will. And we'll go ahead and go back to the default layer, and we can hide that now if we want to. Okay, so let's get out of there. Also go ahead and drop our modeling material on this guy so I can see through him. We'll convert it over to an editable poly and start playing with the vertices. Now, the funny thing about the AT-AT Walker's head is it's a lot more of a complex shape than it looks, but only because of its armor plating. And you've really got to take a look at the model for a while to figure that out, because it really is just very much a simple-looking wedge shape. It's all the plates of armor that have been stacked around it that give it an interesting, like, kind of rounded look around the top.
Right.
And I'll show you that in some of the images a little bit later. Like, if we pop out here, I say later and then I do it immediately. But it's like, this is like a straight line. And that just wedges out. But then you got this kind of semi-rounded plate bolted here on the outside. So you got a lot of things to consider. The cool thing is you can build it and keep it simple and then worry about the detailing later just by adding pieces on top of it. And we have another height discrepancy here that we're going to be kind of fighting with. Which is not really a problem.
No, that's not that big of a deal.
And let's press F4 so we can see wires, because we need to pull this in. You can really see that height discrepancy right there. But, I mean, if we take... And what I mean is, if you're a complete modeling... I'll try not to use the word noob. We'll say rookie. If you tried to pull this down to about where it belongs, which looks like it'd be right about there, then you'll notice if you come back over to the side view that now you're off.
Right.
So just pick one. I'm going to go with the side view for now, and then we can...
and then just compensate as you're working in other views.
Model around it. And we'll line that up. Pull this in just a little bit further. Now, this has undoubtedly made a non-planar face, and you can tell from the design that's probably meant to be planar. Unfortunately, 3ds Max is known for its really easy modeling tools. So we'll just planar that out. And if it starts to push things off of... Actually, it didn't push things off too far.
No, it seems to look pretty good, actually.
We can go with that. Okay, so there's a really basic head. I'm not going to worry about symmetrizing it just yet. It's for later on down the road. Let's build some other pieces. So that's as far as I'm going to go with the head.
Okay.
It's just a simple object. Everything else will be added on, extruded, extra pieces, and so on and so forth. let's actually pop into the front view, and I'll create a cylinder. Give it some arbitrary bit of height. I have no idea how much. And we'll pop this right here, go into our settings for it, up the radius, up the height. Pretty quick and easy. It'll probably be the easiest piece that we get to create today. Let's see, let's close that out, and I will make sure that we take its X-translate and right-click that so that it goes right back out to 0. Okay, now, the mechanics of this thing's legs are not as complex as they look at first, but you really got to kind of tear into the model for a minute. There is this great big cylindrical-shaped drive that runs down the central axis of this thing along the belly. Now, coming out from the drive are these two, actually 4, because there's one for each leg, these 4 kind of elongated...
mounting plates.
Mounting plates, there you go. They're kind of egg-shaped, really.
Right.
And they connect to the drive, and then the legs connect to those. The drive itself, you could make a simple cylinder out of it right now. For the time being, I'm just going to omit it. I'm not going to worry about it. But we will make a little cylinder and some boxes to approximate some legs. Now, therein lies a dilemma. In that, in our image planes, the legs are all turned at like funny angles. We don't have this thing is not just standing up straight, which of course would make modeling much easier. So what I'm going to do is for now lay out some basic pieces that line up with what's going on here. So that's where we will begin. Let's grab a cylinder and something right about there. And I'll get my move tool. There's also something else about these image planes that I thought was kind of interesting.
What's that?
Take a look at the front view, if I can get over to it. Those legs look a little skinny.
Yeah, they do. I didn't even notice that.
You know, you look at this guy, and I've got all sorts of other images because I cross-referenced the daylight out of this when I noticed that. Those are some thick legs, and that's a still from the actual movie.
Right.
So we're going to keep that in mind. It's like it almost makes me think that they stuck that into the schematics just so they could spot people who built one off these schematics. Like, huh. Anyways, so let's...
So just a little bit of extra thickness there.
A little bit of extra oomph. And we can always change and increase that later on as we work. So that's no big deal. Now, I'm not going to stress myself about extruding that out and making any kind of shape. For now, it's going to be a lot easier if I just drag out a box. Oh, nice color for our adit, too. That's going to be...
You like that, eh?
Don't even start. Just back down. All right, let's increase the length a little bit. Go ahead and start rotating this. And I'm going to need my modeling material anyway so I can get some transparency going. So go ahead and take a look there. Pull down the width. I'm just trying to fit it within those lines, give it the same angle. I'm not worried about the fact that it's wider here and then tapers down. That's all modeling. We'll deal with that later. I think that's going to, well, I'm being really picky.
I noticed.
I'd say something like that for now. It's a simple enough shape where I'm not going to stress about it too hard. And we might even need to go a little thicker than that, but it's not something I'm going to worry about right now. Okay. So let's grab our other little cylinder here, and I'll just shift drag this out, kind of line it up with the knee. I'll be calling these things by anthropomorphized names for my own sanity. I'm not, the leg actuator servo. No, that's the knee, and we're working our way down the shin to the ankle.
That's right. And from there on to the foot.
Uh-huh. I don't even know if that's what it's called. I know there's like probably volumes of books written by people who are Star Wars nuts who really enjoy that sort of thing, but for the purposes of this video... Okay, now this piece I will do just like a little notch of modeling on, and I'll probably do a little more for the next piece, but we'll clone off our little box. And then, and cloning helps in this case because that shin piece was rotated. So now we get the same rotation, which will be helpful here. So let's pull down on the length, and we'll line that up with about the correct length. We'll increase the width, and take the length segments and kick them up one. In fact, let's hit F4 so we can see those. I'm going to jump into the front view, which is almost useless because of the weird size they decided to make the legs. But... regardless, we'll increase the height a bit. And let's see, let's jump over to hierarchy. Effect pivot only, center to object, non-effect pivot only, and then line that back up. So yeah, it's going to be a little bit off, but that's because of this new width we're adding. And we may, like I mentioned, I just want to keep reiterating, we may end up changing that width even more while we model. I'm not too worried about it right now. All right, let's jump into editable poly mode. Grab vertices, we'll grab you. And I just held down Shift to select more than one thing, which you can do in Max, just so you know. And let's see, local's not going to do our thing. What are we're looking for... parent. Thank you. And I got to do that with a scale tool. See, this is what I was getting at with the whole "you've been using Maya for a while" thing, and suffering for it. But that's okay. It'll work on the move tool too. You see what I'm doing? I'm just reshaping this so it kind of conforms to what's going on with the actual piece. And not even all that exactly, but I don't need it to be exact just yet. I'm just looking for kind of basic size references.
Sure.
Okay, so now let's pop back out here to the front view yet again. And I can't tell that from anything. And do you even see what that is? Because I don't. Alright, let's grab this and loop it. And we'll just scale it out. And we could probably do the same thing down here. At least with Max you can select through the gizmo.
And that's always nice.
I'll try to quit these little comparisons, but I've got millions of them. It's like, while I use Maya, I gripe because there's stuff that it has.
Yeah, guys, don't worry. It's not the Zuckas.
I'm not partial, but
No.
both applications have something that I wish the other had. All right, so let's jump over and create a tube now. So this is kind of cheating, if there's any such thing in 3D. A little bit of height, and let's see here. Let's increase the number of segments. Oh, not height segments. I don't care about those. We want sides. Thank you. That'll probably work. It leaves it nice and round. Double check all of our widths and things. We'll slide this over to about there. I'll increase the height. Not too much more than that, I suppose. Because I am kind of, I'm fudging that a little bit, kind of making it up. Alright, and convert to editable poly. Hit 4 to go over to faces and kill all these guys out. We'll hit... what is that, 3 to go to borders? We'll grab our borders and cap those. And then, well, I guess I could have grabbed the edges if I hadn't capped the borders, but that's okay too. Grab these guys and extrude them a little. Oh, wow. Even the default
right
extrude.
to the, yeah,
Yeah,
right to the spot.
that never happens. And, okay, so that's not entirely perfect, but it gets the idea across. And it's not like it's going to be a difficult piece to remodel, should it come to that. Okay.
Which, of course, it will come to that.
It'll come to that, but still.
You said should it come to
Well,
that.
I mean, I might be able to take that piece and change its size and
I see what you're saying.
tweak that into it.
Of course.
So,
in fact, I know you could.
So if I have to rebuild it, I can. I guess rebuild would have been a more apropos term. All right, let's grab another cylinder, but I'll create this one in perspective, which I remember that was one of the first things I was taught in Max. Never build anything in perspective.
Unless you know what you're doing.
Yeah, well, see, they just assumed in class that we didn't.
Oh, well, that's a good point.
So we were just, just don't ever do it. And I asked why enough times. They're like, look, okay, fine, just build it in perspective. And just line this up.
Slightly bigger.
Yeah, well, almost. We're going to have to widen out the base of it. I'll just convert that over to an editable poly and get cracking. I was like, where did it go?
Well, you built it in perspective, sir.
Yes, exactly. Shoot. All right. That's going to line up well enough for our purposes for now. I'll probably end up having to scoot the leg in and center it up, but we'll deal with that shortly. Let's see, let's grab you, and I got to work in a whole bunch of viewports at the same time. I'm going to gripe every now and then about the screen resolution I'm working at, which is 1024. Hopefully none of you are working at that size, and if you are, please increase your resolution.
Monitors have gotten relatively cheap.
That's true, but training videos and their production has not. So,
well, we could go with a higher resolution, but, with streaming videos and all.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. It's like there are certain expenses, and it's not even monetary expenses. It's just everything gets more complicated. All right, we'll bevel again, more height, and pull out the outline amount, and that was pretty easy. Let's just hit OK. And there we go. Whoa. I must have grabbed the wrong material. Oh, no,
You're
I
in,
sub-object mode.
yeah.
Yeah. Clink. There we go. Alright, so now with that, let's grab everybody involved with the leg, including you. We'll go to the front view. And it would probably be wise if we slid everything over just a notch.
Hey, what do you know? It all of a sudden lines up.
Yeah, it starts to kind of work out. Okay, so with all that done, what I would do, I mean, if I were modeling, is I would link everything together and then stand the leg back up straight. Because it's not like there's anything particularly difficult to notice from these image planes. Mm-hmm. So I don't think we're going to need to model right up against them, line for line. So let's grab our link tool. Grab you. And then we'll just everybody's selected right now. Let's not do that. So we'll grab link you out to there, and you up to here, and you up to here. Come on, you can do it. There you go. And you up to here, and you up to here. Something probably just went a little funky there, but I'll deal with that in a minute.
Yeah.
I felt it. Did you feel it? It's
Yep.
like suddenly everything was selected, and it gave me a whole bunch of rubber band lines, which made me kind of scared. I think we're good from here.
I do too.
Okay, so now we'll pop over to the side view. And now because everything's linked, I can just grab this guy and rotate him back and just kind of go until the lines on the upper part of the leg here look fairly straight. That's pretty close. You could probably sit here and play with a spinner until it got really precise. But I don't need, dead on. I just need it close enough. And yeah, you could write like an expression to counteract the rotation so that the foot was still flat and stuff like that. But it was faster for me just to do that. Okay, so now we have a leg that's standing up straight. Mm-hmm. And you can see, it's not much of a change. It's not quite lined up with the image plane. But with a model like this, I've got so much reference imagery that I'll probably find myself working from this stuff a lot more than I will be my image plane anyway. So the image planes are just kind of there as a, hey, here's kind of what you're building sort of thing.
Just kind of a guideline.
Just guidelines as much the rules. Okay, so let's jump back over to the layer editor, and I'll grab, let's just grab all the geometry here, and we'll make a new layer, which we'll call leg ref. And let's see, we'll put the head and neck in the same layer. And we'll call this head ref. And we'll go ahead and make sure you stick your default layer back on default after you've done this, because it's really easy not to do that. And then as you create stuff, you're dropping it into like your leg layer and whatnot. Though that will come in handy as we start to add plates of armor and bits and pieces to those objects. Okay, so really, I guess now we got the bulk of our creature roughed out as far as the basic reference geometry. And it's funny, too, because if we saved this geometry, we'd probably have a really good basis for building our low-resolution model that we could plug over into Unreal. Mm-hmm. So that's something to keep in mind. You keep looking at that clock.
Well, this is... what are you going to go ahead and dupe them off?
At least the second leg.
Gotcha.
I mean, probably not everybody, because I haven't even symmetrized the body yet. So... And let's see, was there anything else I want to do? Yeah, I'm going to switch this guy over and grab the interior polygons, at least this one, and we'll kill that. I'm going to leave the one on the bottom for now so that we can build the underside of the chin out of it. But that's enough for the time being. So,
all right, so this is probably a really good place to call it. So we're trying to keep these videos shorter this time around, 20 to 30 minutes.
Okay.
So, Zach, excellent. And, for not having touched 3ds Max in quite some time. And, guys, we're going to continue building on this thing. Look back for videos often. We plan multiple releases each week. And, Zach, to be honest with you, I'm very excited to see how this is all going to work out in Unreal Tournament 3. Because and I'm sure you're pretty excited to see how it's going to work out, too.
I'm really psyched. The funny thing is, though, it's like, I'm not worried about this. Like, the modeling bit doesn't really even look all that super difficult.
No.
Because really, it's a whole bunch of different pieces.
Yeah.
And nothing all super organic or twisted and molded. There is an interesting bit on the drive, but we'll get to that. What I'm excited or interested in seeing is the process of getting it over into Unreal and getting the behavior down.
And getting it functioning, yeah. But Jeff says no problem.
Yep.
So I'm excited to see.
Not that we're pouring the pressure on him now.
No, not at all. huh, Jeff? All right, Jeff. All right, guys. Well, thank you very much for tuning in to this 3D Buzz new series, and we look forward to having you join us with the next episode. And
Please remember to save your file.
That's right. And with that, that is going to wrap up this video. Thanks a lot.